everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-host, Micah.
Hey.
So I have been playing a little game that goes by the name of Final Fantasy VII Remake because they gave it to me for free. And I am of two minds in my early goings in this game. So just for the sake of context, I believe I am in chapter 3 right now. Right now I'm doing odd jobs around the Sector 7 slums. And so on one hand, there's a lot to like about this game. Battle system is good, but I already knew that because I played the demo. The music is excellent. It is the best presentation that one could hope for of Final Fantasy VII, despite the voice acting being suspect in the same way that all Square games have suspect voice acting in some ways. Like if Barrett, and I know we've talked about this before, but if Barrett was a caricature of a black person in text,
Jesus Christ.
he's even more so when vocalized.
Yeah, he's like, remember when I know you're not you're a footballsman, but you're not an American footballsman.
Not anymore.
But you are aware of Ray Lewis. I mean, who couldn't be, right? And Barrett is very much Ray Lewis post football career, where he's some pseudo preacher or whatever. The planet Cloud. If we don't do this for the planet, if we don't commit these acts of terrorism for the planet, who's gonna do it?
I also find the game very interesting. So I'd like to know the experience of the person who played FF7 Remake without having played the original game, because I really feel like that this game was developed with the knowledge of having played the original game in mind, even early on, with the changes that have been made to the story and how they're laying the breadcrumbs for things that'll happen later. Like if you didn't play Final Fantasy VII before, like there must be a lot of shit that you're really scratching your head about.
Yeah,
that happens, and I'd imagine that these things will happen continuously throughout the entire game. That said, and again, I know this has been talked about because Micah talked about this when he played the game last year. That said, if you want to talk about the shining example of padding out a video game, I'm already seeing it in this game so far. And again, no one should be surprised by this when you're taking a section that in the original game took about 5 to 6 hours and you're extending it to a 40-hour experience. Like there's going to definitely be some padding if you're adding, like 8 times more content than the original game had, essentially. But man, like it's just kind of weird. Like you're like, oh, let's go door to door and meet people and change out water filters. And I'm just like, all right, like I kind of want to move on with the story, but I suppose if you're going to make me walk around and talk to people, then I guess that's what I'm going to have to do.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Midgar portion of the original game to begin with. I think it's just because I'm burnt out on it, because every time I replay that game, you have to play that part.
Sure, and it gets cool as shit when you get to the Shinra building, and again, I would presume that that's probably the case in this game as well. And I also will say that I enjoy the fleshing out of the overarching story, which they do in this game, like having Shinra. I don't remember Shinra making the first attack like worse than it actually was in the original game.
Yeah,
unless Shinra, I'm misremembering things.
No, I think you come to find out later that Shinra is very much in control of what is going on.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. Like it's not like, oh wow, that bomb was really big.
Right.
It's a weird game for people who have played the first one, who are like us and just kind of like Final Fantasy VII, but like don't kneel at the altar of Final Fantasy VII. Um, you know, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse like being people, like
Mhm.
real actual people, is very cool. Like the changes that you find out later on are actually really cool. Um, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, yo, I'm ready to be out of Midgar.
Right. Well, and
And
that is the thing. So Final Fantasy VII is a game filled with really like exemplary moments. Like whether like the gravity of those moments, you know, can be overstated in certain degrees because of the, how long the game's been around. But there's a lot of cool scenes that I'd be curious to see how you could put them together now.
Mhm.
Um, but very few of them take place in Midgar. Like many of them are in other places in the world. And in all honesty, like we're probably going to get to experience very few of them, because I would imagine that when they come out with the future iterations of this game, that they're probably going to be staying in a general area for the most part. Like I don't see a lot of world traveling in
Yeah,
iterations of the game.
you yeah, wait till you get to the end. Like you absolutely won't see that,
Yeah.
right? Like it is like the ending is set up in such a way where they can literally do anything they want now.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be I will be interested to see what they feel is important in this version of Final Fantasy VII
Mm-hmm.
in this world, you know. Apparently, you feel it's important. I don't see it.
Like
Uh,
I don't think you're gonna get to cruise. I don't think you're gonna get to go up in a rocket ship in
no,
this game to try
no,
to destroy a meteor. So
no.
I don't think that's gonna be a thing that happens.
Like, do they cut out the golden saucer? Like,
I mean, where do you fit it in,
right,
honestly? And everything that goes along with that part of the game as
right.
well, like going through the prison camp and really, fleshing out Barrett's story and things like
Yeah. What about Dean or Dine or whatever the hell his name
that.
is? Marlene's like real dad or whoever he was.
I
Like,
honestly, I don't even know, because of what they're doing with the game, because of how they changed the story. I don't even know if you necessarily, if those beats, like is the game going to end inside of, like the polar vortex or whatever the fuck, you go into
right.
it. Like is that even going to be a thing? Like is Genova even going to be, a long-term factor outside of, you know, in the Shinra lab or whatever? I don't know. Like we'll see.
Yeah. So
It's an interesting conundrum. But I'm going to continue playing it. It's cool. I don't know if I'm going to sit there and, like if the side missions are all like this kind of like running errands bullshit, like I don't know how much I'm here for that. But at the same time, it's an RPG, so I feel like if I don't grind a little bit, that it's gonna be to my detriment later on.
you should probably grind just a little bit, but it's not. If you've got enough money,
Mm-hmm.
you can essentially just kind of buy everything you need,
Mm.
and then um you can get through it. Like, well, some of the materia, if you have like a core set of materia,
Mm-hmm.
then you might want to have doubles in
Mm-hmm.
case you need to switch them off of people. But the fact that you could switch material off of inactive party members and active party members and stuff like that, like you can get through it. Like you don't have to get all the summons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Those are fun fights, but for the most part, they're not really needed. You can get through the game without them. And like some of the later stuff is a real kick in the dick
Mm-hmm.
when, spoiler alert, you fight Sephiroth, yeah, at the end of the game. And some of that stuff is can be annoying, but nah, you don't have to. There's a lot of fetch quests in there. You don't really have to do all them.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Well, and again too, the other problem for me is like it's the ticking clock, right? Like I gotta, whatever I do in this game has got to be done by mid-May.
Yeah.
Um, and that's if Outriders is shit. Like a lot of folks that have had a lot of positive things to say about, you know, Outriders from the demo that they released. So if that's actually decent, but then again, that comes out like 3 weeks before Mass Effect, so I can't imagine getting that and spending
Yeah,
a hell of a lot
I
of
mean,
time playing it. So we'll see what happens. But Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's cool. It's fine. Like it is what it is. It's fine. It's fun.
yeah.
It looks cool. Sounds good. And that's really all I can ask for right now.
So can't wait for that upgrade. Is it enough for you to buy that?
No, no, absolutely not. Especially because they're going to charge you full price. It's not even like they're going to give you a discount. Like if it was like $20 to upgrade and get the expansion, and if the expansion was actually worthwhile content, maybe.
Oh well, yeah, no, come on, man. $20 for the free game. You got the game for free. You just will pay another $20 for the upgrade and the expansion. No,
Yeah.
you're asking way too
No,
much.
not from the company who couldn't bother to include a season pass with their Final Fantasy 15 $300 collector's edition. not from the company, I don't think.
This is the company that charges $15 to $20 for a mobile port of your Final Fantasy game that you're playing. So,
though that being said, if this is kind of an indicator of things to come, and again, I haven't played 15, so I'm not, maybe this has been the direction they've been headed. Like if this is an indication of things to come for like Final Fantasy 16, I'm actually tentatively a bit excited to see whatever Final Fantasy 16 is, because I like the trailer.
I'm super excited for Final Fantasy 15. I'm more excited for Final Fantasy 16 than I have been in a while. 13 didn't really do it for me. 14 was fun, but that's a huge time commitment that I just do not have. 15 15 was entertaining. I enjoyed 15. I enjoyed it so much I got a platinum in it. That's not very hard to do, but it's just tedious. Like you got to like how that game plays. But 16 looking like 14, and I have very good fond memories of 14. And being and that world I think is incredibly interesting. It's going back to like, it feels like more high fantasy and takes itself a little more seriously. Like 15 was like an extended road trip with your buddies. I mean, yeah, he was a prince and all, and the world was at stake, but like nah, you're eating cup of noodle soup, and you got your skillet out in front of a campfire, and you're driving around in a Rolls Royce or whatever. Like that's not it's weird. It's weird. So I'm super excited for 16. I can't wait to play it 4 years from now.
That's true. That's true. You've asked me to guess.
Yeah.
How much time you've invested into Bravely Default 2 so far?
Yeah. So Bravely Default came out on February 26th, a week and a half ago. And I've been playing that game a lot. How long do you think I've been playing that game?
50 hours.
Almost. 44 hours and 6 minutes is how long I've invested in that game, and I'm only in chapter 3. I don't know how many chapters there are.
What?
Like I enjoy this game, but the pacing in it is just, it has always been off, right? Like Bravely Default is there. It's a game that's not afraid to throw like boss battles, story related boss battles back to back.
Oh no.
And
I just Googled how many chapters are in Bravely Default 2.
Is it like 3?
No.
Oh, all right. I was about to say, man.
No. But it still makes me think that you're taking your time, unless the game really does drag out that slowly.
It might, man, because this game is, like I said, the pacing is always off because you have to, in order to be like super effective, you really got to load these jobs up. And you really got to like take your time in dungeons. And it gets to the point where like the game doesn't have random encounters. So you can see all the enemies on screen. And if the enemies kind of have a reddish tint to them, then they are a challenge. And if if they're garbage mobs, they run away from you.
Mhm.
So it gets to the point where you have to run and chase them down just so you can grind and so you can level. And but I enjoy it, because if you don't, you'll be like me, who just had a boss battle for a whole last 60 minutes.
Mhm.
And this was, so I had a boss battle earlier today, and I don't know if I was prepared properly, because it got to a point where I was fighting a mage, and it got to the point where the boss, who was a mage, ran out of MP, so they
Mhm.
couldn't really do anything anymore. So I was like, oh wow, okay, finally, I won through a war of attrition, right?
You should have fed it like an ether or something, just to make
Yeah,
things interesting.
yeah, no, fuck that. Especially with that boss did. No, screw that boss. and I fight it, and now I'm fighting another boss. I just finished it, and I was like, shit, like I must not be prepared, because I fought him for an hour, and I just quit, because I'm like, I gotta run a new setup. And I changed my setup, I changed my jobs, and because I thought I was pretty good, right? But I changed my jobs, and then it just took me like 20 minutes, not even like 5-10 minutes to beat the boss. So that's what I like about the game, is that the boss battles are really fun, but there is no like set pattern,
Mhm.
or as black dudes from Baltimore say, pattern. They pronounce the N at the end of pattern for some reason. There is no set pattern for beating a boss. You just have to be set up in a way to use specific skills that might be able to defeat the boss. And I've been doing that for a lot of bosses, man. Like, I gotta figure out, I play the boss to figure out the boss's like techniques,
Mhm.
and I try to win. But if it goes longer than 45 minutes, like, screw that. I know how the boss plays, and now I gotta go
Mhm.
back and try again with a different setup. So,
It
but I look, it's scratching that turn-based itch for me.
Well, look, I'm not going to tell you how many chapters are in the game, because I don't want you to I don't want you to know like where you're coming up in the story. But what I will say is that if your playtime is like a real playtime and you're not just going slow, and you're in chapter 3, then I'm never playing Bravely Default. Not ever. But hey, a lot of value there for you folks that are looking for a JRPG of that magnitude, I suppose. If you're not looking to sink time into Bravely Default 2, then there's plenty of other games that came out this week. The newest expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online, Flames of Ambition, comes to PC and Stadia. Apex Legends finally makes its debut on the Nintendo Switch. First Strike Classic comes to PC. Nightfall Hacker comes to PC. Cyanide and Happiness Freakpocalypse comes to PC and Switch. I
Sorry,
feel like
what?
there's some gimmick infringement going on there. Hyperscape Season 3 Shadow Rising comes to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Monster Truck Championship comes to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in Europe. Total War 3 Kingdoms Fates Divided, a DLC for Total War 3 Kingdoms, comes to PC. Crash Bandicoot 4 comes to PS5, Xbox One X, or Series X, and the Nintendo Switch. And Drive BUY, comes to PC and Nintendo Switch.
I did not know that there's a Cyanide and Happiness game.
Yeah,
I'm actually interested in seeing what that is.
there you go.
Go to densepixels.com/fans. Doing that, you will get an invite to our Discord. Discord is the method that we are of choice, I guess.
Moving to.
That we would like to use, because Facebook apparently keeps banning all of you ne'er do wells, who just have to to tell people off.
Yeah, the that and the white supremacist ruin groups for the rest of us. We can't have nice things because people are planning insurrections on social media.
So go to densepixels.com/fans for that invite. Go to youtube.com/densepixels for and subscribe to see Brad in his N7 casual wear.
Mm-hmm.
You can subscribe to all of the TMP Studios podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Such shows as The Nerdpocalypse, which we will be talking about WandaVision. You didn't watch any of that, did you?
Zero interest.
Yeah, I figured as much. I don't even know why I asked. I forgot who I was talking to for a second. Black on Black Cinema, where we reviewed Coming to America. Not Coming to America 2, Coming TWO America, because homonyms are funny, I guess. That episode will be up very soon. Coming Distractions, the contemporary movie review podcast, and the weekly preview episode of the Look Forward Political podcast. Once you do that, you're going to be like, wow, I wish these folks could talk about Seinfeld and action movies and James Bond movies and musicals and even more politics. Well, have I got good news for you. For just $5 a month or $50 a year, by going to densepixels.com/premium, you could sign up for the premium slate of podcasts, which include The Airing of Grievances, the Seinfeld show, No Time to Bleed, the action movie review show, The Men with the Golden Tongues, the James Bond movie review show, and Spy espionage show, and Upstage Conversations, the musical show, and the last hour of the Look Forward Political podcast, which is, I guess they call that the after party. They're trying to be as serious and as upfront as they possibly can, and then behind the paywall, that's where all the magic happens. So yes,
yeah, it's where the most fun happens for sure. So
absolutely.
So we talked several months ago about the U.S. Navy and the military in general, just kind of stepping in on Twitch and over moderating and running into some hot water on there, and they eventually stopped streaming. Well, the U.S. Navy's back. However, you still can't talk about war crimes in their Twitch chat. Now, to be more fair to the Navy, they are reaching outside of their own folks, I guess, and reaching out to other like content creators and things of that nature. So I guess it's a little bit better. But currently in chat with the U.S. Navy, you can only basically communicate through emojis right now. You can't actually like type out regular text and things of that nature. Again, I don't know how comfortable I am having our tax dollars being put towards advertising for the military through things like this. I guess they have the freedom to do such a thing. And if Twitch is going to allow it, then it is what it is. But I don't know. I still don't feel great about it considering who much of the target audience on Twitch is.
It's always weird. One, Brad, get your politics out of my video games. This is your fault. Yeah, it's like I understand what they're doing, but like it's a recruitment tool.
Yes,
like it is a recruitment tool. And I never understand. And it's weird because if you have any type of criticism, no matter how reasonable or ridiculous, people want to label you as unpatriotic and un-American. Why do you hate our troops and all that? And it's a fight that it's a weak argument, and two, like I wonder who like Twitch would look bad if they shut this down, right? And said that, we don't want any type of, military agency or anything like that to use this as a platform for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's a double-edged sword, man. Like, if you do that, then Twitch hates America, right? But if you don't, you get reasonable people who are like, well, maybe let's not like this is the new having the recruiter at the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't sit well with me, man. It really doesn't.
Yeah. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how they continue to moderate their Twitch channel going forward. But yeah, they're back. So we got that going for us. Micah, you'll be happy to know that Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two Games, a man who I have to imagine is worth tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, considering the success of his video game company, has decided that all of us commoners are ready for $70 video games. So he was talking at the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference, and he was talking about, 2K was the first publisher that announced they were going to do $70 games, and here's what he had to say about it. I'm quoting Strauss Zelnick. Now, we announced the $70 price point for NBA 2K21. Our view is that we're offering an array of extraordinary experiences, lots of replayability, and the last time there was a frontline price increase in the US was 2005 and 2006, so we think consumers were ready for it. He's also said that we haven't said anything about pricing other titles so far, and we tend to make announcements on a title-by-title basis. But I think our view is that we always want to deliver more value than what we charge, making sure the consumer has the experience, and the experience of paying for it both are positive experiences.
What corporate speak is so funny to me, man. Like we want to make sure that your experience of giving us money is positive for you. It's quite literally a negative.
Yeah,
it's a negative into my bank account.
And here's the funny thing. So he talks about wanting to make it worth the value, and whether like let's take 2K21 for example, because that's the example that's being given by him here. So what NBA 2K21 is worth is going to differ from person to person, right? Like some people think it's worth $60. Some people would gladly pay more and do because of the different editions that come out. Some people don't buy it till it's on sale, so they don't think it's worth that much. 2K is telling you that the PS5 version of NBA 2K21 is worth $10 more than the PS4 version. And you'll have to forgive me because I'm not up on my 2K feature and benefits at this point. But to my knowledge, the only difference in the PS5 version is the better graphics and, like the ray tracing stuff and the fact that Zion Williamson looks like he's swimming when he's playing basketball because there's so much sweat on him that it's insane. But as far as I know, the features of the game are the same. The modes in the game are the same. You're still getting a full-fledged experience. It just costs more on the next-gen system because more resources had to be allocated to its development, which is fine, but just say that. Like, don't sit here and be like, we're providing you with more value. You're kind of not. Like, you're just putting the same game out on both consoles, but one just costs more. And again, as far as I know, and people can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, from a feature set standpoint, they're identical.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And I also agree that if just say this is what we're going to charge.
Right.
Like you don't have to, and look, I get it. I'm not here to beat the drum for, the consumer. In the middle of a pandemic, like you got the nerve to charge $10 more. Like, look, I get it. I know how this world works. But at the same time, like, don't all of this, like, we want to make this a positive experience, and I like, nah, man, like, just tell me this is what it cost. Like, you don't go to a grocery store and you realize, oh, your gallon of milk went up $1,
Mhm.
and need an explanation for it.
Right. And
So
well, and here's another thing too. So like if you're, let's just hypothetically say that Sony comes out with like an Uncharted 5, right? And it's $70 on PS5. But obviously besides better graphics, like you get, you know, better soundscapes with the 3D audio feature of the PlayStation, and of course fantastic loading times because you're playing it off an SSD, and maybe the game's even longer than Uncharted 4 is. I don't know. But that is providing more value, and you're also providing a complete experience, by the way. Don't not to forget, with NBA 2K, not only are you charging more money, but your game is also riddled with microtransactions that people will gladly fork over even more money for at the end of the day. So really, truly, at the end of the day, all you're doing is hitting people with a $10 surcharge. Which, like you said, if you're going to do that, that's fine. But don't piss on my leg and tell me that it's raining.
yeah,
Like, just be like, hey, next gen games for us are going to cost $70 because of the additional resources needed to develop them, and that's fine. Like, and like, I don't even think you'd get a backlash for that. I really don't. Like I feel like people would be like, okay, yeah, that's understandable.
you'd get a backlash from like the fringe left,
Mm-hmm.
but like most people get it. Most people get it. It's happened damn near every console generation, and
Sure.
I understand. Your analogy would be like, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's a positive experience. like
I think I
like
think I think I think you got us a show title for this.
So yeah, I would actually respect you more.
Right.
I
And
would respect you.
but here's the thing though. If you want to make a $70 video game price, that's fine. But now you're putting the perception out there that, oh, this game has to be worth more, $10 more than games last generation were. So you better deliver on a better experience. You better, whether it's fair or not, you have to validate that additional cost.
Yeah, because if you're playing both of them side by side, or if 2K21 on PS4 is playable on PS5,
Right.
then okay, the $10 doesn't, like, and it's the same experience. It's just that one of them has is up-resed or whatever. Like, then the $10 is negligible. Then you make people question, well, why am I paying this extra $10?
Right. And we've already seen, I don't know if backlash is the right word, but we've already seen, like take a game like Godfall, for example. Like Godfall was a, not quite a launch title, but close enough for PS5. And that game was $70 when it came out. And that game just was not worth $70. Like, I don't care how pretty it is or how fun it is to play. Like, there wasn't enough content in the game. There wasn't enough of a gameplay loop for what it was trying to be.
Right.
And it just wasn't a good experience. And not a lot of people bought it. And you saw discounts happening on that game immediately because they realized that they overshot charging $70 for that game. And again, if that's gonna be your price of entry, that's fine. But you have to make games that are worth that cost of entry.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put it at that price. And again, the PS3 generation, which is where we first saw those price increases as well, they had the same issues. They had the same problems. Layer was $60 when that game came out. So was Ridge Racer 6. So was Genji. So were a bunch of other games that certainly weren't worth $60. And PS3 struggled out of the gate. Microsoft a little bit less so, but they were also the only game in town at the time when they first released the 360. So, speaking of politics and video games, so you previously alluded to, Micah, the publisher of the upcoming 6 Days in Fallujah, which we just talked about a couple weeks ago, now says that the events that are recreated in the game are inseparable from politics, which is a complete 180-degree reversal from their stance a couple of weeks ago that their game does not dabble into politics at all, which, of course, as we pointed out at the time, was an utterly ridiculous stance to take.
I mean, come on, man. Come on. Come on. You're essentially naming it after a conflict, right? Like,
Mhm.
and a questionable one at best, right? Like, it just doesn't. I don't know, man. You could do so much. You can, like, if this is just about telling a story,
Mhm.
you can place it anywhere. Like, I understand you want to use it in, like, use real world situations and stuff like that. Like, but we're not like, it's not like World War II where we are far removed from it.
Yeah.
We're damn near 3 generations removed from it. And everyone uses World War II because there were clear heroes and villains in that, man. Like, it's easy. You have to have such a deft hand at storytelling to even talk about something like this
Mhm.
in a medium of entertainment. And video games ain't there yet.
No.
This
There
is not.
and well, to be fair, I'm sure there's some scribes in video games that have the ability to do that. But I'd be shocked if any of them were just happen to be working at, this one developer here. Not to cast aspersions on anyone that works for this studio, but just the odds are not in their favor. And B, like, still, like, even if you do have a well-written premise, like, translating that to an interactive medium is incredibly difficult to do
Yeah,
in
because
a manner that has the necessary, like, nuance and things that you need to be able to tell this story in a way that's honest, without being exploitative.
right, like, there's always the X factor of the person controlling the action, and it just doesn't, like, look at that no Russian thing from Call
Mhm.
of Duty, right? Like, I bet when they wrote that, they were like they were breaking their arms, patting themselves on the back, right?
Right.
Because they're subverting expectations of what this Call of Duty thing is, right? If I remember correctly, you're an undercover agent and you have the option to kill all these innocent people or not. But it doesn't, the if you do or if you don't, it doesn't affect the story either way.
Mhm.
It's just whatever the person is like. It's very weird. Like Rockstar can't do it, right? Like look at the Red Dead games. The Red Dead games have protagonists that are generally nice guys. Like, on the alignment chart, they're on the gooder side of the alignment chart. You can't have, like, John Marston is a great character, but if the player is controlling John Marsden, he could take a woman, rope her up, and throw her on train tracks, and then go around and talk about how he loves his wife and his kid, and like, it doesn't work. So I just find it weird, man.
Yeah.
I just find it weird.
So apparently, the way that they're going to kind of tell the real story, I guess, of the conflict is through these different, like, documentary segments that are going to be in the game, which will be interesting as well, to see how they interlace that in as well. And they even make it a point to mention. So one of the many controversial aspects of the conflict in Iraq is the use of white phosphorus as a weapon. And they're like, well, we don't let you do this in the game, like, during gameplay, but then its use is described during the documentary segments, which is funny because there was a game that came out 10 years ago which was able to tell a good story about the effects of, certain, like, extreme measures in combat, like white phosphorus, for example, that had nothing to do with the Iraq war. It was a fictional story, but it was still excellent. Like, and one of the best mechanisms of storytelling, especially in a military context. And I'm talking, of course, about Spec Ops: The Line, which is a game, that's well known for telling a very good story. And I think that they had a little bit more flexibility to do that because what the story they were telling was not based on a real life conflict. It was clearly inspired by, many real life conflicts, but they weren't beholden to having to tell history, which again, when you're telling history, no matter how much you try to remain unbiased, it's impossible to approach it without some biases in the framing that you're telling.
Yeah.
It just isn't. So like I said, I'm glad that they woke up and smelled the coffee on the fact that their game about a controversial war that's still technically ongoing is actually going to have some political ramifications, or at least have the air of politics over top of it. So good that they are not that detached from reality, that they could come around on the statement. Finally, Microsoft has completed their acquisition of Bethesda, and now, according to Phil Spencer, he is saying that some future Bethesda games will be exclusive to the Xbox and PC platforms. To which I say, no shit.
Yeah, like, I mean, come on, yo. Like, you're not gonna throw all this money around and then just let everybody like profit. Like, nah, yo. No. God, I would make all of them exclusive. I after Death Proof is out, or whatever the hell that game is called, every single Bethesda game you can only buy on a Microsoft system or PC. By the way, people only buy them on PC or an Xbox if they're console gamers anyway, right? Like,
yeah, people. Well, yes and no. Like, so I think that was true when like Elder Scrolls 5 came out, for sure. Like, and partially because the PlayStation version was a hot mess,
garbage,
when it first released. I don't think that that's the case. Like, you'd have to look at their sale numbers. Remember, Bethesda encompasses a lot more companies besides Bethesda Game Studios. Like, you have id, you have ZeniMax, you have Arcane, you have a bunch of other studios as well. And I had to imagine that in the PS4, Xbox One generation, that a lot of their sales on console specifically came on the PlayStation side of things as well. So it's an interesting conundrum. We touched on it a little bit before. Do you gate those things behind exclusivity, which if there's like Bethesda's is one of the few companies in the world that could actually drive people to purchase your platform if they weren't planning on doing it already, right? Like, if they're a console gamer, there's certainly enough people that like Bethesda games that they would buy an Xbox just to play those. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, PlayStation 5, as far as we know, and we don't know much yet, but as far as we know, is out in front again this console generation. Doesn't make sense to gate off that marketplace for your biggest titles. So I don't know that they're going to make like Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive. I don't necessarily know that they're going to make Starfield exclusive, though. If you were going to do it, doing it with a new IP is probably a smart way to go. And I wouldn't like Indiana Jones. That's tougher, right? That's a more difficult one to parse out.
No, I mean, it's a new IP, but
right,
it's based off of a legendary IP. So no, you gotta make Indiana Jones multi-platform.
Yeah, and then whatever the next Fallout is, again, do you exclude PlayStation from that? I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense to. It's an interesting question to have to ask. Be interesting to almost see how much DLC gets loaded into these games now, considering that Microsoft will be getting a direct cut from all of it, regardless of which platform it's sold on. But yeah, this makes sense. I would expect to see certainly some lesser titles. Lesser titles is an assy way to say that. I would expect to see some smaller or lesser known titles definitely be exclusive. I would be a little surprised if they gated the big ones, like the huge releases behind that.
I'm going through all of their I mean, look, they'll do what they do for most multi-platform games, right? Like the big releases plays better on Xbox, You know what I mean?
And honestly, to be fair, that claim is pretty true now. Just because of Game Pass, right? Like just because of Game Pass, that all these games are going to be available on Game Pass when they release. So if you already own an Xbox and you're already paying for Game Pass anyway, it's not going to cost you anything extra.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Proposition. So
I totally forgot that all of these games are going to be day and date.
Yeah. So I mean that's a pretty big deal.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah,
because you can urge people to get Game Pass. Your real moneymaker. I need to know how companies make money. How companies make money by agreeing to have their game on Game Pass.
I'd have to imagine, and there's probably some like voodoo economics going on with it, but I'd have to imagine that Microsoft has to have some way to estimate how many copies they would have sold if not for putting it on Game Pass, and then negotiate like a licensing fee of sorts or based somewhere around that number with the company.
Yeah,
that's what I had to imagine. And I'd have to imagine as well that it's like probably less than like Google paid to get like Red Dead Redemption 2 on Stadia and stuff and things of that nature. It's tough, right? Like and like these publishers have their analysts as well, to be able to look in these things. And I suppose it's also different for their games. Since Microsoft owns Bethesda now, like this wouldn't really factor into the equation, right? Like because this is technically a first party title now at this point.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine with third party games that they have to negotiate some kind of fee, and it's based around, what it would have sold, essentially.
Yeah.
If you guesstimate that sort of thing. So
yeah, I'm just really curious. Because like Game Pass is, I mean, there's nothing on it right now that I want to play. But the fact that I can play all these games, like I have to check my Microsoft account to see how much money I have in there still, because I still have it, but I don't use it as much.
I mean, it could also be based off of like hours played, right? So like if you have Game Pass, like so Microsoft knows how much revenue they generate from Game Pass in a month, right? And I'm sure that they keep a cut of that. Let's say it's 30%, just because that's how much they get for downloadable content. So let's say out of the chunk that's left, they can see how many hours each of the games that are on Game Pass were played, and then they can divvy out that money to those publishers like as a percentage. Like, your game constituted 5% of all hours played, so here's 5% of this, of this money that we got essentially for Game Pass, if that makes sense. So perhaps it's like a running, instead of a flat fee, it's like a running thing based on usage.
I mean, I guess that would make sense for the developer. I can't imagine this big corporation would do something like that. I would like to think that they would be like, hey, we're not gonna give you back end money. We're gonna pay you what we think your game is worth in totality. And that, especially with smaller developers, like that's how you can that's if you're a smaller developer, you can get some quick cash to try and develop your big game. But maybe and because I usually don't see like really big games on Game Pass, and unless they're Microsoft first party games. But I don't see,
or if they're older, like they've been out for a while. They've already
exactly
money,
like
right?
Exactly, like they would have to have been out for a while.
Your point of the small developers is a good one, because especially for those guys, when you don't know how successful a game's going to be, like a bird in the hand is often better than two in the bush.
Right.
So, if you can take guaranteed money, and like you said, like that's money that they have up front to be able to put towards the next project in a lot of ways. So certainly could see that as well.
It's very interesting, man.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
I wish the economics of the industry were more transparent, because I have always found the business side of the game industry to be incredibly interesting. But I guess it can't be transparent just because of the nature of the business.
Yeah. We don't want to tell you how much of a positive experience you're going to have. That's how when we set this price point $10 more, like if it's such a positive experience, why not set it $15 more? Then it'll be really positive.
I predict we're gonna get an $80 game at some point during this generation, not like a special edition,
$80
like,
base game.
Yeah, like a base $80 purchase. But it's gonna be something. But it's gonna be something that's like you could easily put like 250 hours into this game without blinking an eye, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it's got to be something that's, you know, not even necessarily an existing IP, like a beloved IP that people will. Of course, I'll pay $80 for Mass Effect 4 or whatever, right? Like,
so not Marvel Avengers 2 is what you're saying.
I almost wanted to talk about that, but not like, yo, fuck that game. Fuck that game. They're making the grind more grindier because they're like, oh well, if we have people leveling up too fast, and it could be confusing with all the options that they have for performing moves.
It's so funny because like we just talked about Anthem last week, and now that the picture, it's like Marvel Avengers, like, well, we'll go ahead and take Anthem's place. that's doomed to be on the scrap pile of the live. Next.
Oh my God, man. Look, speaking of money, finances, go to densepixels.com/Amazon. When you go to densepixels.com/Amazon and make all your Amazon purchases there, we get a finder's fee. You don't pay anything extra, and you help us out with that finder's fee. Every little bit helps. It is literally the easiest way to support the shows that you like to listen to. My wife I have to see if my wife has been going on using the link, because she's always buying something. And like I shit you not, we got no less than 5 packages today from 3 separate orders. And which means that she bought them all within 2 days. It's it's a bit ridiculous.
Well, like I said, I've been enjoying buying books through densepixels.com/Amazon because I've been reading a lot lately, and that's the easiest way to get them to put on my Kindle.
There you go.
So I have a lot of friends who still like reading like paper books.
I love reading paper books. I love reading paper books. Unless they're like comic books. If they're comic books, I'll use my iPad. But if it's anything other than comic books, I will go to densepixels.com/Amazon, and I will buy a paper book in a heartbeat.
I just the technology is too good, and the ink displays like give you the look of a book.
They don't give you the smell of a book.
No, they don't give you the smell. You're right. Yeah. You're right about that. They don't give you smell, but they give you the look. It's cheaper, and you have built-in light, so you don't have to have like a book light if you're reading in the dark. So like it's all good. But I've have so many friends that are just like cling to their books, and they don't take up as much space. You know, books are nothing. Yeah, right. books are nothing. They're not. You don't have to sit them on a bookshelf or nothing. Even though like a bookshelf looks cool with all your books on it. I don't know. It's funny how people are with some things.
Look, I get it, man. I get it. I got a bajillion. I have 2 iPads because I'm an idiot when it comes to money. This iPad is dedicated specifically to comic books, and the other one is when I want to like do work or watch movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have a bajillion of them on here, and I can't but for some reason, like, I can't use this to read a book. To read a novel.
Now, funnily, I'm the exact opposite. For the few comics that I own, like I like to actually have them. I'm like my Mass Effect omnibus. Like I gotta have it in hand. And they have the complete one too, by the way, that has both omnibuses on sale on densepixels.com/Amazon right now.
There you go.
$27. That was probably the longest Amazon read that we've ever done in the history of the show. I'll tell you something that you're probably not going to be able to buy on denspixels.com/Amazon for several months after it releases, because it's going to be sold out constantly. The forthcoming, reportedly, new Nintendo Switch model that has, of course, been dubbed the Nintendo Switch Pro by folks. Bloomberg, and by Bloomberg, we of course mean Jason Schreier, published a report last week with details on the new system. So here's what the new Switch is reported to have hardware-wise. So a 7-inch display with an OLED panel from Samsung. So that's nice. You get some nice colors and stuff on there. It's going to ship with 4K ultra high definition graphics when paired with a TV. But the resolution of the screen when in handheld mode is 720p, the same as the existing Nintendo Switch console. So bigger screen, OLED panel, which is good for the color palette that you have available to you. 4K on the TV, but no resolution upgrade in handheld mode.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that makes the Switch unique, right?
Yeah.
And one, I don't think I need a bigger screen. Like, the Switch is pretty big in and of itself.
I wouldn't mind a bigger screen. It wouldn't hurt me to have it.
What is it? The 7-inch?
No, it's like I think the current Nintendo Switch screen is like 5.7 inches, if I remember my specs correctly, from when the system was first announced. Mike is actually bringing out a tape measure and his Nintendo Switch, so he can now remember, Micah, you gotta measure the diagonal.
Yeah, of course. Wait a minute, this is a 4-inch screen. Like, no, guys, come on. It is about 6.5.
Oh, okay, I was way off then. What now? Are you measuring along the bezels, or are you measuring the?
No, I'm measuring the actual like
the money. The money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not on the I'm not on the sides. I'm measuring, and it looks like it's 6.5.
Okay. So not a huge upgrade then in terms of size.
It's not a huge upgrade, but the actual screen itself, like if you measure from not where the screen is, but from where the black border is, from one end to the other end, that's about 7 inches.
Okay. So it'd be about that size then. I guess they'd have to keep that same shape if you're trying to do like a widescreen ratio.
Right.
I don't get putting out a new system which is going to be more expensive and you're not upgrading the base resolution of the console, especially because we know that most people who play the Switch experience it not only in handheld mode the majority of the time. Some people use it in handheld mode exclusively. Like, some people don't even hook up to their television.
Yeah, they released a whole ass system based on that fact.
Yeah, 100% correct, which I happen to have right here. So yeah, they literally made this because they're like, oh my God, so many people play it just in handheld mode that we can make a cheaper version without the dock. And I think that's great. But if you're not going to upgrade the resolution on the handheld mode, then is it really worth paying an extra probably $400 to get this new console? What else are you doing? And obviously this is just reporting that we have from Bloomberg on this, and we don't have all the details yet. I would need to see more upgrades under the hood if you are going to if to justify to me to pay that premium cost to upgrade the console. So we'll see. The report says that it should be expected by this holiday season, which is interesting as well. Yeah, I don't know. This news was unsurprising until I got to the 720p part. I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like, why are you bothering?
I mean, maybe it's literally not for, maybe it's just literally what if they pull the old Switches from the market?
Mm-hmm.
only to sell this new one, right?
I could see that. And so here's where it would benefit them. It would benefit them in keeping up with the Joneses with PlayStation, because now third-party games will at least be like close to being on par with the PlayStation and Xbox counterparts with that 4K upgrade. But again, it's only on the TV mode. So then I wonder if you have certain games. Well, I guess any game can be down resed. It's only up resing that you run into a problem. I don't know. It's an interesting report that came out. I want to know more. I want to know more for sure.
Yeah.
We go to the post office. Gustavo says, "Are you guys keeping up with the Premier League?" And by you guys, he means obviously not me, because he knows I'm keeping up with the Premier League. Because obviously Tottenham is my club. And Tottenham hasn't been doing so great the second half of the season. Let's see. So Micah, Chelsea currently sits 4th in the table, hanging on to a Champions League position. I don't remember what you predict. What you predicted in that.
I think I predicted like 5 or within 5.
Terrence's beloved Leicester City currently sits 3rd inexplicably, despite being not fantastic this year. And Carey and Newcastle currently sit 16th, which I think I predicted 15th for Newcastle. So that's a pretty good look there right now. Spurs sit 7th. I think I predicted them for 6th. So as much as I don't want to be looking good for this right now, because I'd certainly like them to be much higher in the table, they're currently sitting at 7th. Though they're showing signs of warming up, which is encouraging. So I'm hoping for a huge surge up the table to at least make it back into the Champions League, or barring qualifying for Champions League outright, perhaps Spurs will win the Europa League this season, and wouldn't that be a treat? So, but yes, of course, keeping up with the Prem, as it were. Kasa Mako Oku, which I probably badly mispronounced, ask, what's an upgrade in a game, like a new weapon or power up, that completely changed things for you for the better?
I when you get whatever the BFG is for the game that you are playing. I remember in Resident Evil when you beat it to the point where you like literally have no reason to play it anymore other than the fact that you want to play it. For Resident Evil 5, you got Chris got the hand cannon, which could literally just annihilate 3 zombies in a row. Like if they were all like in a conga line, you could just bust off and just and just take them out. But I don't know. I'm thinking of like games like Metroid where but the games are designed for that specifically. Right. You know what I mean?
So one I can think of, and it varies from game to game, but for the most part, it's a huge upgrade over where you were before. Like in any Zelda game, when you get the Master Sword, that's usually a pretty big step up in terms of attack power.
But and all of them except for maybe the last one, because you can go through the game without getting it. Like that's a part of the story. You know what I mean?
It is, but it still makes you feel powerful once you get it. For sure, like super powerful. The Beowulf aspect in Hades on the shield made me a fucking monster in that game for a brief period of time once I unlocked that and started leveling it up a little bit. I have to play that game, and apparently a game that came out recently called Curse of the Dead Gods is in a similar vein as Hades, but different enough to warrant owning both, and I've heard it's very good. So that might be next on my list of games to check out. But yeah, those are 2 that come to mind right away. I can also tell you that getting the stealth camouflage item in the original Metal Gear Solid when you beat the game, letting Meryl die, makes that next playthrough incredibly funny and fun to just like walk up to guards and punch them, but they can't see you, so they're just like kind of trying to freak out, wondering what the fuck is going on. So that's just a fun upgrade. Or also in MGS1, when you get the bandana, when you beat it saving Meryl, you get unlimited ammunition. You can just go like murking everything in sight. Like that game is not meant to be played as a third person shooter or a top down shooter, but it becomes one when you don't have to worry about your ammunition supply. So those were fun. And like I said, one of the few games I've ever replayed immediately after finishing it was the original MGS. So Cam says, did the finish of AEW's Revolution replace Shockmaster's entrance on the biggest embarrassments in wrestling history? So I read about this. Obviously I didn't buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm not dishing out $50-$60 for pay-per-view
anymore. So the concept, for those unaware, is that Jon Moxley, nay Dean Ambrose, and Kenny Omega fought for the AEW World Title in an exploding barbed wire death match with a timer that the ring was set to explode after 30 minutes. Okay. So the match happens. It's brutal and gross. And like I said, I'm not really here for hardcore matches anymore at this point. But Jon Moxley gets handcuffed in the center of the ring. And he can't escape, and the timer's about to run out. And I think it's Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston came out.
Like runs out, and it's a cool story beat because him and Jon Moxley like fought a bunch over the last couple months, but like Eddie Kingston like went out to save him and basically like covered him to protect him as the time's getting ready to expire. And what happened was essentially compared to the entrance of Gilbert in terms of the pyrotechnics and level of destruction that was on display.
I didn't get a chance to see it. I have seen a exploding ring barbed wire death match. It was a Japanese match. A lot of those guys spent a lot of time in Japan. I'm assuming that's where they were like, well, yo, we could do that here. It is it is spectacle, right? Like the ring doesn't blow up, right? but you do get they set off explosives just outside or just inside the curtain. Mm-hmm. And you trigger those explosives and then the ring like collapses. Mm-hmm. Like if two big men do a superplex, you know what I mean? Then the ring collapses on itself. Look, it's goofy wrestling fun. Mm-hmm. And if done well, looks kind of cool. But from what I saw, it just looked like somebody threw out some dry ice and they had a little sparkler party. If I could watch AEW pay-per-views without having to pay like $50, $60, $70 for them, I would, but I'm not built like that anymore.
And again, I think the reason that people were laughing at it is because they built it up, they like hyped it up as this big thing, this big outcome. Probably to a point where it was never going to live up.
It's not like it, like the way they were hyping it up. It was like, some like the ring is going to literally explode, right? Like no, it's not that. So is this Shockmaster levels of embarrassing? No, like the Shockmaster thing has layers of embarrassment. Because not only did he trip over the wood in the drywall, I mean the dude had on a glittered stormtrooper helmet, like that was his fucking outfit, right? Like that gets glossed over a lot, but I think it's important to mention that like this dude, the Shockmaster's helmet was literally a stormtrooper helmet that was decorated in silver glitter. And it had Ole Anderson's like weird voice done over PA as the voice of this guy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's nothing I don't think can truly top that. I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think anyone will be talking about this in a week or two.
No.
Whereas, when did the Shockmaster thing happen?
Yeah, it was 30 years ago. Still talk about it today. Now that being said, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how once again AEW has bolstered their ranks by signing 2 40-plus-year-old guys that weren't doing anything in the WWE. And I'm not trying to cast aspersion on either Paul White or Christian. Both guys that I like very much, and both guys that are certainly Hall of Fame caliber talents, as Paul White described Christian as when he was teasing that big signing. But again, I just have to point out the similarities to a wrestling company from days yore, who followed a similar path.
I see where you're going. I like AEW. I think it is. I just see it as an alternative. Like they keep spouting off, but I do like some of the things that they're doing. I like that their style of wrestling is a little less safe, but still safe. You know what I mean? They have the Jay problem, where Jay likes to, because Jay is very proud of what he has created, and sometimes Jay will hype something up, and it doesn't necessarily, or not even hype something up. He'll advertise something that we haven't really locked down yet. Like there have been a couple of instances where he's done that because he's excited and he's he wants people to like tune in. And recently he's gotten a little better with not doing that and just letting things be a surprise. If Paul White came out and said that they're going to, that we got a new sign, we got a signee that's coming, and he'll be at Revolution. That's all you need. But the fact that you kind of is a Hall of Fame worthy and is this and you're hyping him up, and I'm not saying Christian doesn't need to be hyped up, right? Like Christian's Christian, right? Like everybody loves Christian. But when you do that and you don't kind of give people a little wink and a nod, you get the WandaVision thing, right? You get the is it Mephisto? Mephisto is signing with AEW, guys. Like it's like whoa. Everybody calm down.
Yeah.
Like we need to curb our enthusiasm and set realistic expectations. And that's what they need to do.
But again, I need to point out that a company who touted themselves as being, we're going to be different, we're going to be built on true, like the younger guys, and so like Matt Hardy featured prominently in a match at this past pay-per-view. Sting featured prominently in a match at this past pay-per-view.
I mean, but here's the thing: are they getting over on these younger guys? Like, are they putting them over, or are they getting put over? Right? Like, Sting ain't winning. Sting ain't getting a pinfall.
Sting got a pinfall.
Sting got a pin. Yeah,
it was like a cinematic match, but
okay.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying you can't come out and be like, we're different, and then do like all the same shit that WCW did back in the day.
Yeah, well, they're different from WWE.
That's true.
They didn't say which one.
That's true. We'll take with the exception of John Moxley, we will take all the guys that couldn't that couldn't make it on TV, and all the guys whose best days are behind them from this company, and we will make sure to feature them prominently.
Hey,
I mean, for fuck's sake, like Miro signed with them like 6 months ago, and the dude just got his first win on a pay-per-view this weekend. Everyone got upset when like WWE let Ty Dillinger go, but what the fuck is Sean Spears?
Yeah, what is Sean Spears doing?
Fucking nothing. Like I know people Vince McMahon, they love to give him shit, and I understand it. And occasionally he has missed the boat on people before, but his batting average, I'm just saying, is pretty good. And if someone's not working out, there's probably a reason why, and it's not because of him.
It's for the most part, it's not because of him,
Yes.
right? Like he sees, there's something about him that he can see when someone has something.
Yes.
The problem is he likes to like, this is the next big thing, right? He's good shit, right? And look at him. He's Samoan. He's got hair. He's got brown eyes. We gotta make your eyes blue. But you're Roman Reigns, right? And he's pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, and people don't like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now look at him. Like everybody loves him. He's the best thing going.
Yeah.
And he saw that in the guy. He saw it before anybody else really saw it. And he tried to push it on people. So look, I'm not the person to give Vince McMahon crap. He's been doing this longer than I've been alive, it feels like. So I'm gonna trust that the guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't mind AEW. I can really tell where they are. When they make a mistake, it's a mistake that Vince McMahon wouldn't make.
Yes. That is,
and it's very, very clear.
Yeah. And what's funny is that they tried, like, so with this ring thing, like they're trying to play it off like, oh, Kenny Omega, like he built a dud bomb. I'm just like, can you just realize, like your best move in this situation is just to fucking like new phone who dissed that situation,
right? You gotta steamroll past that.
Ignore it. like you're not gonna spin this. Watch them try to storyline it now.
Well, they kind of, because they wanted to do this because they wanted to get John Moxley off of TV because his wife's about to have their baby.
Right.
So, like, oh, he got injured during this giant explosion. And the only reason he didn't die is because Eddie Kingston, pulled a Captain America and jumped on top of him to save him. And
that's fine. But like, the dude literally just wrestled in a barbed wire exploding barbed wire death match. Like, I'm pretty sure you can write an injury angle in there without having to try too hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you have to think outside the box. Like, how can we get this guy off TV wrestling in a match where the ring ropes are all replaced by barbed wire? Like, I don't know. I just can't figure out how we can write an injury angle in without exploding the ring. All right, AEW. John Moxley opened his femoral artery on barbed wire, and he's going to be out for several months because he almost died. Okay, like, you don't have to show that on television. Like, you can just pour a blood pack on his leg and be like, "Oh my God, he cut his artery!" Like, get into the hospital quick.
Oh man,
there you go. I just did it. So, Johnny asks, what add-on or post-launch downloadable content made you cave in and buy a game that you originally had no interest in?
For Brad, it will be the Yuffie DLC for Final Fantasy VII.
You know what's funny is that I'm struggling to think of a video game example of this. I don't know. It's weird, right? It's like I didn't buy Ghost of Tsushima because I wanted to play the DLC and I didn't have interest in the main game beforehand. It almost like worked as like, wow, look at what these guys are doing. This is cool. Like, they deserve to have their work supported. Right. Like, I barely touched the DLC, but it's just cool that it exists.
Yeah. Plus, it's from a company that you like too.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. And whose last game before this didn't really blow my socks off. So I was curious to see what they had back at the table. This phenomenon happens to be more in analog games than it does in video games, though. So there's a game that came out a couple years ago called Root, which is it's a war game, but the characters that, like, the factions you play as are cute denizens of this forest, but it's like this like asymmetric, like, shades of politics war game that exists. But the art's really cute looking, so it's a juxtaposition. And the game didn't play very well with two players, but since the game came out, they released several expansions, including like a expansion just full of bots, essentially, that kind of simulate how the other factions, the different factions play, so you can flesh out a 2-player game and have more things going on the map. And I repurchased the game recently, and it's one of my favorite games that I'm playing right now. And I wouldn't have had that experience if they didn't release that expansion. So it's something, it's a trap I fall into in the tabletop gaming space more than I fall into it in the video game space. Weirdly enough.
No, if I want to buy a game, I'm gonna buy it. Like, there's no amount of DLC that makes me like, well, maybe I should check that out. Like, if I'm at that point, well, maybe I should check that out now that this post-launch content is here.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was going to buy that game anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I
the
mean,
closest thing would be like a fighting game, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh well, Guile is now available for you to play as a DLC character, or season 1 season pass or whatever. No, I already bought that game.
Oh, never mind. I'm glossing over the ultimate example of this for me. It was when Rise of Iron came out. That was the first thing that really piqued my interest for Destiny, which is ironic because the Rise of Iron expansion itself didn't really do a whole lot for me at the end of the day. But the theme and premise around it like made me sit up and take notice of Destiny for the first time. And that's kind of what got me into playing Destiny, was that expansion coming out. And then I just found the great world that existed as a result. So yeah, that's probably the ultimate example for me. Matt Coco asked, does Big E have the right idea in saying that this rapper on wrestler beef does not involve, if this rapper on wrestler beef does involve the creation of a new Def Jam game, it's all meaningless. For those of you that have missed the goings-ons on wrestling Twitter for the last week, Randy Orton and Soulja Boy are in a feud right now online, because Soulja Boy called out wrestling as fake, and many WWE wrestlers took offense to someone from the entertainment industry criticizing their beloved craft.
If you want to ingratiate yourself into this world, like you want to be a part of wrestling, like Bad Bunny or whatever, you don't do it by saying wrestling is fake.
Yeah.
You're just not. So
I mean, and to be fair, like, Randall Keith Orton continues to own the internet. I mean, like
yo,
like he
would have thought.
He was all, it was so funny because he was trying, like, I think he was earnestly trying to be complimentary to Soulja Boy, but he also correctly pointed out that Soulja Boy really hasn't done anything since 2007, which is an accurate statement. That's pre-Obama, ladies and gentlemen. That was last time that Soulja Boy was relevant on the top charts, on the top 100, with his first and only major hit, as far as I'm aware. Like I said, that's the only one of his songs that's transcended the genre for me. So
yeah, you're not gonna like, because the rumor is like those guys, him and Lil Bow Wow, want to be involved in wrestling. And yeah, you're not gonna do it by calling wrestling fake. It's just not. Like, you can have your beef or whatever, but don't use the F word. And you don't have that kind of drawing power, right? Ronda Rousey had that kind of drawing power, and they kind of were a little pissed when she was saying it.
Yeah,
but she puts butts in seats. Nobody's going to come see Soulja Boy tell that or whatever his name is, and Lil Bow Wow.
No, you're not moving tickets with
right,
those two guys.
But what this question does pique my interest in is a new Def Jam type game.
Sure.
And I would actually really love if, like, it was a Def Jam type game, but like with actual wrestlers in it as well. Like, if you're going to do this beef, like, Def Jam versus WWE or whatever. Yeah, it's the most, like, it's corporate synergy and just it's the worst kind of entertainment. Just two big companies like clashing, but at the same time, like, yeah, I like that. right? Like I like, and it hits a little different because they're not like, it's not like Marvel versus Capcom,
Mhm.
right? Because those are two video game companies. It feels like something that's ours, right? Like, no, this is two mega corporations using the thing that we love as a thing purely to make money. But at the same time, like, I really would like to play as Biggie giving Soldier Boy tell that run tell him or whatever his name is the big ending. Um, look, real quick, you brought up Biggie.
Mhm.
Biggie is currently in a feud with the Californian Nigerian Apollo Crews.
Mhm.
Look, I don't mind the fact that Apollo Crews has a character, right? Like, he finally has a gimmick. He's a descendant of Nigerian royalty,
Mhm.
complete with horrible African accent, right? I don't mind that at all, right? Like, because it gives him some sort of personality other than, smiling black guy.
Mhm.
What I do mind 100%, I cannot abide this foolishness, is him walking around with a fucking spear. I just can't do it.
I can understand that.
And that's 100% Vince McMahon, right? Like, that's 100. Oh, give him a spear. That's good shit. Those guys over there, that's how they fight. Spears. Nah, yo. Mm-mm. Can't abide.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nigeria is like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the most like advanced country in Africa.
Yeah, it's not like they're walking around in grass skirts
Yeah.
and with fucking holding sticks with metal at the end of them.
Yeah,
You know
like
what I
like
mean?
like
Like,
you can have someone be Nigerian and not the tribal tropes.
right. That would be like Kurt Angle in his, USA get up walking around with a bayonet. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, come on, yo.
Yeah, like I said, it's not really a situation that I can comment on with any kind of intelligence, but I can see where that might be a problem. I
Like,
can see where that could definitely be an issue.
it's just
Like I said, I'm
fucking
I'm
weird.
more interested in aligning him like alongside like a Paul Heyman. I don't know how that works with the whole Roman Reigns situation right now, but they keep teasing this like pseudo relationship with him and Paul Heyman. As if it was Paul Heyman that inspired him to heal out essentially.
Yeah.
We'll end it with Jace, who brings up a topic that I've been thinking about quite a bit recently. He said, after being thoroughly disappointed with my last pre-order, Fallout 76, and seeing the Cyberpunk debacle, do you still pre-order games? I asked because I want to pre-order the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, but I'm gun shy, even though I have all three originals, so I know what to expect. So I am at the point now, based on a ton of games that have disappointed folks. I don't really pre-order stuff anymore because there's really no point in doing it. And it's funny because Sony's been harassing me to pre-order the Mass Effect Legendary Edition for the last couple of days because it's in my wish list. So they're like, "Oh, you can pre-order it." I'm like, I could, but I shouldn't. Even if I do end up buying the game right on day one, um, I feel like I at least got to wait for a review, and I hope that reviews come out before the game releases. So at least I've and I don't even care, like, because obviously, yeah, I played all three Mass Effects. I know what I'm getting into. I want to make sure that the game is not a buggy shithole. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure it's not a mess
Yeah.
before I'm giving you $60 or however much it costs to buy this thing.
I wish I had that cut.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Mike. I already know
Yeah.
the answer to this question.
I mean, if it's a game that I'm like on the fence about,
Mm,
like if I gave Outriders a chance, that Outriders would have been a game that I would just go ahead and pre-order,
mhm.
sight unseen, even before the demo came out. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, but something like Mass Effect that I 100% know Good, bad, or ugly, I'm getting that game. I'm going to pre-order it, especially if I have the money right now. If I have the money right now, I'm going because I suffer from that, like I don't have self-control thing, and I don't want to spend the money on like food or whatever. So if I have the money right now, I'm going to pre-order a game that I 100% know I'm going to buy.
I'm gonna run down a list of games real quick. You can tell me whether or not you have it pre-ordered. Ready?
I only have 2 games pre-ordered.
Oh, okay. Well, then now we're going to turn this game around. I'm going to guess what they are.
and one of them.
One of them's not even fair, right? Because I already know it's Mass Effect. Is the other game? I'm trying to think. Horizon.
Nope.
Damn it. I'm only going to guess one more time. Got to think about this. What's coming out? I'm trying to think of what's coming out in the next several months without cheating. I'm stumped. What's the other one?
Guilty Gear.
Guilty Gear. Okay. Yeah. I forgot they pushed that back. So
yeah, they pushed it back to June. I was looking forward to playing it in April, but they pushed it back to June, which it is what it is.
I got to tell you, I'm surprised that you're not like 10 pre-orders deep right now. I'm a little shocked.
No, yeah, I'm getting better at it. You know what I mean? I'm getting better at it, but I'm still going to pre-order a game that I 100% know I'm going to play.
I get that. There is no reason. There are a few pre-order bonuses that are worth, in this day and age, prepaying for something that you have no idea what the quality, and I'm not talking about how good or bad the game is. I'm literally just talking about functionality standpoint. We've seen enough examples of games shit the bed on release. Cyberpunk was the last straw for me. Like when that game came out the way that it did.
Yeah.
There's no point in pre-ordering games anymore. There isn't. Wait for reviews to come out. Like, I'm not saying you have to wait for reviews necessarily. Like, if you want to buy it on day one and they don't release a review, first of all, if they don't release a review in advance, or if the review is highly restricted, like the Cyberpunk review was, that should be a huge red flag. Number one.
Yeah.
Yes, honestly, wait for reviews. And again, not for the like this game is good or not, just literally for this game works as it should or not. Because we've had far too many examples of games not being that way. To give people money up front at this point. We really have.
Yeah. Death Proof, old me would have pre-ordered that game the moment it was announced. But then I think about who makes it, and they make quality games, but for some reason they just don't. I don't jive with them. So now I'm like, all right, I gotta see what people say about it.
Right.
Before I do anything.
Even Sony.
Deathloop, sorry.
Like, I have no doubt in my mind that Horizon, Forbidden West is going to be excellent and polished and fantastic when Sony releases it, because they've never given me a reason to doubt that would be the case. Why am I going to give them $70 before the game, comes out? There's no sense. So I would encourage folks not to pre-order anymore. And again, it's funny coming from me, who for 11 years has had to preach differently.
Right.
But no, there truly is no point in doing it. Pay for what the product is rather than what you hope it's going to be, because there's game companies have not earned your goodwill
right
in this day and age to give them the benefit of the doubt. So that is it for the post office. Thank you guys for submitting your questions. Don't forget, as Micah mentioned earlier, to go to denspixels.com/fans. From there, you can find the Discord link to join the Discord server. It is pinned to the top of the page. as one of the announcements. You can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Please do so for us as well as all the other shows in the TNP Studios network. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/DensePixels and follow us all on Twitch. I am DensePixels Brad, Terrence is Apparition 410, and Carrie is Suppets Carrie. Whereas I think it was Ken mentioned in the fan group today on Facebook, where we manage to stream without dropping anti-Semitic slurs, as many people can't seem to do on Twitch nowadays.
Goodness gracious.
You know what's fucked up about that story, by the way? For those that didn't see, there was an NBA player who made an anti-Semitic slur during a Call of Duty Warzone stream. The article that I saw pointing it out to me was on NBC Sports. And in the headline, they quoted what the player said. They blanked out all the F-bombs.
But they kept the anti-Semitic. Yo, come on, yo.
Which really shows you where NBC Sports' priorities are when it comes to shielding people from offensive language in terms.
Wow. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but like, come on, man.
Well, you laugh because it's just ridiculous. Like, it's completely exasperating that they're just like, oh, we got to make sure we censor these F-bombs, but this word is fine to.
Oh my goodness!
To leave, leave this front and center. Can you imagine any other ethnic slur that would be permissible from somebody?
Honestly, the only ethnic slur that people respect is the one that starts with N.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I'm seeing more people start to respect a lot more, like gay slurs as well. Like not those, which is good to see. But yeah, people really need to step away from their American white Christianness when they're and consider some things when they're reporting on this information. Jesus.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know. Like, it's always been like acceptable to call Jewish people whatever, and it just doesn't, because it's not one of the 7 words you can't say on TV, right? Because it's like, no. it's not cool, man.
Yeah, it's not cool. So don't use anti-Semitic slurs, and if you work for a blog, make sure you censor them in your headlines. So that's a lesson you can walk away from today's show with. So that's it. Thanks a lot for listening and watching, and we'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here, and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.